jump right into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to another session of Dreamtime with Danielle. And today, I had a special dream. I have a dream. It is the month of Martin Luther King celebrations, his birthday, the inauguration, the Bernie memes. Oh my goodness. There was just so much joy. It's been a very exciting couple of days. I've loved it. But my dream last night has been more of the reoccurring type of dream as opposed to just symbolism. Oh my goodness, I'm so shy. I'm coming forward with vulnerability. This is a dream that I have in waking life and I'm dreaming about it in my sleep. So I want to share it with you, but I'm also, I'm Twitter-pated. Just, Bridgerton. Okay, wait, take it back. So around Christmas, Bridgerton dropped on Netflix, and oh my goodness, now everyone has Bridgerton fever, and honestly, who could blame them? I mean, the costumes, the people, the story is just pure romance novel, and that's what's so much fun about Bridgerton. And now I'm dreaming about Bridgerton. Specifically, I'm dreaming about being in Bridgerton. Oh, it's what I want. It's what I crave, darling. But that's not a real British accent. This is a real British accent. And it might not sound real to you, but what you don't know is that I actually have a British alter ego. She goes by the name Danielle Marivette, and actually that is my name. Danielle Marivette Hernandez. Which, if I do this correctly, I will have accurately changed my YouTube name from I am a zygote to Danielle Marivette, which again is my name. But let's dial it back. Bridgerton. It's a book series. Specifically, it's a series of romance novels. It's not like a book series like Harry Potter, young adult, and it's not a book series like Lord of the Rings, which is pure fantasy. It's like right in the middle. It's romantic fantasy. So briefly, let's talk about romance novels before I tell you my dream. Because romance novels are this very niche market that you can kind of oversimplify. Let's oversimplify it. Romance novels. Porn! Okay, I'm glad we got that out of our systems. I mean, let's not lie. There's a lot of sex in romance novels. However, there are plenty of romance novels without sex. One thing that makes romance novels so special is that it is going to have a happy ending. But that does not mean that everything that happens in a romance novel is going to be happy. And it's important to know that. Because with Bridgerton, you find that, yes, some characters get a happy ending, but there are plenty of characters who go through a lot of drama and tragedy. And this is actually something you find in romance novels. Romance novels tend to explore potentially real-life situations, especially real-life traumas, and either try and make them okay, or use them as a plot device, or sometimes it feels like the author themselves are working through their own traumas through these characters and everything's going to end up fine. What does that mean exactly? Oh, okay. Well, first of all, content warning that we are going to get a little bit into the nitty-gritty. It's going to get a little dark. Anyone who has traumas, anyone who has any type of sexual-related traumas, maybe skip past this part or be prepared mentally for what we're about to discuss. But this does mean that there are romance novels that explore rapes, explore kidnappings, explore assault. This isn't about whether it's right or wrong. Fiction is the creative license of the author. If they're printed, they're printed. So I bring this up because there are often times where problematic things happen in a romance novel, and either we're going to gloss over it like it's all okay, or it's going to be a pivotal plot point. I mean, I can remember some pretty romance novels where I was like, what was this author thinking? Bridgerton is not one of those. And in fact, Bridgerton is not the name of the book series, it's just the name of the family in the book series. I'm sure by this point YouTube has flooded you with the information that the first book is called The Duke and I, the second book is called The Viscount Who Loved Me. But my dream is about the third book. But we're not there yet. We're still discussing romance novels. 1. I read my first romance novel when I was in high school. I was about 16. And actually, that one didn't have any sex in it. But the very next one I read did. Oh boy, did it. It had a lot of sex in it. And this is something that I want to share with you that I don't know. I haven't heard any other person discuss this just yet. If I'm wrong, excuse me and guide me to their channel. But if not, please consider what I'm saying to you. A lot of these romance novels take place in a time when the average woman, and I'm going to say woman because typically you'll find heteronormative relationships explored in these books, but not exclusively. But there's a vast quantity of them. Typically these books take place in a time when there was zero education allowed for your biology and your sexual nature available to women. And so what you'll find, and by the way, when I say women, I mean women of the breeding class, which is what the Regency explores, it's what Victorian England explores. Any historical novel typically follows some wealthy woman, and, oh, she doesn't know about the world of sex. And that's not wrong. That's the case for a lot of people. I bring this up because in Bridgerton, there is a scene in episode 6, spoiler alert if you have not watched it, that is very questionable. And, full disclosure, is worse in the books. It's worse in the books. Now, I've heard some people describe this as rape, as male rape specifically. I hesitate to call it that because of how they went about it in the show. But a violation absolutely occurs. And why does this occur? It occurs because without correct information, we violate each other's boundaries. Without open communication, we do not even know what is acceptable to each other. So when problematic things occur, and they will occur, it's a conversation starter. It's the perfect opportunity to open that topic and talk about these things in the modern realm that we live in today. Because today there are still many places where sexual education and a biological education are highly restricted or completely unavailable. I actually explore a lot of this in my self-titled one-woman show, Danielle XX. So that's not what we're going to concentrate on here today. But I just thought you should know, it's very important. Romance novels have a lot of questionable content, but not all romance novels. Oh yeah, I was telling you about a terrible romance novel I read when I was 16! Some of them have really problematic stuff, guys. What was happening in the 70s? Not good. Dial it back. Bridgerton! So I've been dreaming about Bridgerton. Let me tell you about my absolute favorite Bridgerton novel. It's the third book. It's called An Offer from a Gentleman. And it's the story of Benedict. Ah! Okay, have you watched Bridgerton? Yes or no? I don't know. I have. And I watched it with a lot of excitement because romance novels are meant to be fun and silly if done correctly. If done incorrectly, then they just take a turn for the whoa. What? You have to suspend a lot of belief to get through romance novels. That can be part of the fun, or that can be part of the tragedy. Bridgerton! Bridgerton is a series of lighthearted enough novels. Yes, questionable stuff does happen in all of them. bad stuff. You know what? I can't say that. That's really up to the reader whether it's good or bad. I mean, you'd think a situation's black or white, but really it's shades of gray. Okay, so let me tell you my dream. Now that I've butted ya up. So I had this gorgeous dream where I was doing an interview on the beach, and I am having a conversation with someone connected to Bridgerton. A producer, a director, I don't know, but I gave them footage that I filmed of myself as one of the characters from my favorite one, the third book. And they watched some of the footage, and they really liked it, and they were like, well, what do you want me to do with this? And I was like, well, the next step we should take is see if I have chemistry with Luke Thompson. Actually, I don't think I said his name, but that's the actor who plays Benedict, who is my favorite Bridgerton. And I don't just mean the books. I mean, they cast the perfect actor. Like, he really encapsulates the character so well. They all do, but not as well as some others. Like, read the books. Tell me what you think. Or don't. I don't know. Are you into romance novels? I think they're fun. I've been in denial about my love of romance novels openly. Not in private. In private, my friends can tell you, "Woo, girl is a little obsessed with romance novels." Because they're fun. What do I love? I love fantasy. I love fiction. I'm basically a fairy woman Maya Rudolph knockoff. A fantasy fairy Maya Rudolph knockoff. Whew, say that 10 times quickly. Fantasy fairy... I can't even do it once. Fantasy fairy romance novel Maya Rudolph knockoff. Fantasy fairy... Nope. Fantasy. Fairy. Whimsical. Fairy tales. Cinderella. Oh, that's going to be another thing. I've been in denial about Cinderella being my favorite tale because I really genuinely never felt like it was. But if you look at my collection of films and stories, I have like 19 versions of Cinderella. My excuse would be, well, that's the one that they make the most often. But I think it's also the most malleable. Maybe I should just put that one in here. I'ma do it. This is now a Bridgerton romance novel Cinderella tale because that is what an offer from a gentleman is. Okay. You realize this means now I have to do a scene for you, right? But you'll have to suspend your disbelief and don't go, she doesn't have a British accent! Because in it, I will. Okay, this is what you need to know. I've been collecting Cinderella tales my whole life. My whole life. It's time for me to be in one. Lord knows I've been writing a bunch of versions. More than 2. That's a bunch in my book. Hold on. At least 3 versions of Cinderella are bouncing around in my head, minus an offer from a gentleman. So that makes 4. Spoiler alert. This is information that you can read on the back of... Holy crap, why don't I just do that? I'll be right back. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The only one I kept, an offer from a gentleman by Julia Quinn. Are you ready? Oh, I know you're ready. This is the 3rd sequential novel. Sophie Beckett never dreamed she'd be able to sneak into Lady Bridgerton's famed masquerade ball, or that Prince Charming would be there waiting for her. Though the daughter of an earl, Sophie has been relegated to the role of servant by her disdainful stepmother. But now, spinning in the strong arms of the debonair and devastatingly handsome Benedict Bridgerton, she feels like royalty. Alas, she knows all enchantments must end when the clock strikes midnight. Who was that extraordinary woman? Ever since that magical night, a radiant vision in silver has blinded Benedict to the attractions of any other, except, perhaps, this alluring and oddly familiar beauty dressed in housemaid's garb, whom he feels compelled to rescue from a most disagreeable situation. He has sworn to find and wed his mystery miss, but this breathtaking maid makes him weak with wanting her. Yet, if he offers her his heart, will Benedict sacrifice his only chance for fairy tale love? An offer from a gentleman. Or, if they go sequentially, season 3, baby. So this is my confession, as my dream has very clearly said, is that I want to be in season 3 so badly. And more specifically, I want to play Sophie Beckett. She is the Cinderella role of my dreams, literally of my dreams. I mean, if you go many videos back, you'll see a couple titled Romance Novel Theater. They were not exactly what I had intended from the start, except maybe the first one, which I also read the back of a romance novel that I invented. But Romance Novel Theater is an idea that I had, like, a decade ago. And Romance Novel Theater was initially supposed to be a series of comedic romance novels, but fleshed out in the style that Bridgerton has done. I'm talking with a budget, with a cast of extremely good-looking people, because that's also the fantasy of romance novels. There's a world of good-looking people, and they're all good-looking in their own way to different people. There's just so many possibilities. Of course, I also do a lot of comedy, so I was focusing a lot on the silly aspects, the ridiculous, the... what? Give me the word, Hernandez. It'll come to me. Like a comedy of errors, when, like, this goes wrong, and this goes wrong, and this goes wrong, and somehow you just end up exactly where you're supposed to be. So that was Romance Novel Theater. I had intended to film some of my own, and I just didn't know how to do it without other people. But you know what? It doesn't matter. That can happen still in the future. I have a lot of romance novels. What? You want to hear? You want to hear one of the backs of one of the romance novels that I've never finished but totally wrote the back to? Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. Here's He Came by Night, which you can actually hear the back of if you go way back into August, July, May? It was a hot month. And look up Romance Novel Theater. That's also where my character, Flight of Fancy, comes from. She's me. She's my Flight of Fancy. Hey girl, I know you in here somewhere. I found one. Oh, I even gave it a text. Okay. He was sworn to serve, bound by more than honor. She was her very own Black Knight, powers beyond reasoning, outcasting her from youth. Night sage can only be collected 'neath the full moon of the summer's months. Evangeline knows this, but does not know the price she must pay for taking. For guardian of that tree will not let it go without a fight. Finding herself cursed in his domain, Evangeline must guess his name before the moon wanes, and she is cast in shade forever. Moonshade. I know! I cannot express enough. This feels like Confessions of a Secret Romance Novelholic. Maybe that's what I'll title this episode, Confessions of a Secret Romance Novelholic. This might be a long one. Scars and Stubble is another one. That one I started writing with friends. We had our own little group. We called ourselves the Romance Novel Theater. Memories. I would love to share their names, but I also have not spoken to them prior to this episode and asked for their consent. So I'll let you guess names. Guess names. What kind of names do you think we gave ourselves? Oh, now I have to confess my romance novel's name. I am Frisia Winters. That is my romance novel name. And I don't mean the romance novel that I'm in. I mean the name of my nom de plume. It's my nom de plume, baby! Every time I write one of these little backs, it's under the guise of Frisia Winters. And that's what's fun about romance novels. You can give your characters any type of ridiculous name. I remember one of the very silly ones that my friend and I were writing. The main character's name was Cellabella Rose Lily Violet. Cellabella Rose Lily Violet. Don't forget it. That was in college when Mary Sues were very popular in the fanfic kingdom. It doesn't mean that they're not still, I'm less aware these days. The kidnapping. Oh, that's right. Scars and Stubbles was a kidnapping one, in which we try and make a kidnapping okay. Heads up, it's never okay. June 17th, 2012. That's a spicy meatball. Romance novel theater. Key elements. Confusion. Innocence. Fiery. Forbidding size. Double identity. Orphan. Marriage. Steamy. Deception. Debauchery. Eyes, as in close-ups. Close-ups? Seething. She gazed into his eyes, seeing his very soul. Revisit characters. Well, I mean, that's what Bridgerton does. That's what makes it so much fun. The entire family gets their own romance novel. Of the kids. I mean, I shouldn't say kids, because that sounds wrong. They're all adults by the time their romance happens. Accident prone. Yeah, klutzy, clumsy. Oh, why do you think Bella is in Cella Bella Rose Lily Violet? Lord knows that was her one character trait. I do not consider Twilight a romance novel. It's romantic youth fiction, but it's also... We'll just throw that in the paranormal activity. Enchanting. Cynical about love. Yeah, you see that a lot. That's probably why I've been in denial about my romance novel obsession. You know, listen, we grow up, we experience love, we experience heartbreak, we experience bitterness, we experience cynicism, but it's up to all of us to reclaim ourselves and reclaim our hearts, and that's sort of what I'm doing here today as I confess a lot to you guys. Goose to swan. Geese don't become swans, that's ridiculous. Battle of the wits. Oh yeah, that is a common trope. Conflict. I mean, you can't have any story without conflict. Dun dun dun! So, romance man, rake hells, man of title, war, rogues, riches, honorable, prideful, scars, and stubble. You can see where we got the name for that one, right? Scars and stubble are mandatory. If you do not have a scar, you better have stubble. If you do not have stubble, you better have a scar. I don't make the rules. I just read too many romance novels. Also, both scars and stubble are incredibly hot. They're just sexy. You have a scar, that means you survived something. You've got stubble? Yeah, that's just generally a hot thing. Not for everyone. I'm into it. Romance female. Fiery. Can't be tamed. Wild and free of heart. Suffering from expectations of society. Yeah, that's a very common trope. She doesn't fit in! Oh, but do we ever? Also, do we want to? Sometimes society is not something we want to fit into because we're like, who made those rules? They suck. I'm gonna forge my own path. So now that I've read the back of... too many things. But now specifically that I read the back of Bridgerton, Book 3, An Offer from a Gentleman, I'm going to share with you, my viewer, why I resonate with Sophie so much. One, she's a bastard. And I don't mean like she's a dirty, rotten bastard. I mean she is born out of wedlock. So even though she's the daughter of an earl, she's illegitimate. She can never be recognized. And this makes her other. She doesn't fit in. She can never truly be part of the high society that her blue blood decries. Decries? Is that the word I want? That her blue blood demands. Yeah, that's better. But neither was she born to toil, although asterisk, nobody was born to toil. That is a terrible expectation that we put on other people because humans created society and humans are inherently flawed. Doesn't mean that work doesn't have to be done, but toiling means that there's suffering, there's overburdening, and there's no gratitude at all. There's no appreciation for the person. That is toiling. Thank you. This is the Hernandez Dictionary. Danielle, Marivette, Hernandez. This is why I say that it's a Cinderella tale, because Sophie is cast into a servanthood after her father dies. Her father, who she's never allowed to recognize as her father, he raises her as his ward. This is the perfect opportunity for me to deviate into Cinderella. Cinderella. I'm sure right now you're thinking of the shoe, the glass slipper, the pumpkin, the prince. Yes, those are all tropes. Yes, those are all tropes, but Cinderella is so much more than any of your expectations. Cinderella is about reclaiming your personhood, reclaiming your identity as a human being and as worthy of love, health, wellness, sanctuary. These are things that have been denied to so many people all through history. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, it is just time. We have the know-how, we have the science, we know that hygiene means that we will live longer, and living longer means that we can do different kinds of work and provide for each other differently. Cinderella comes from a time when that was not common knowledge, when hygiene was not readily acceptable, when clean water was not readily available. But did you know that servants were not seen as human? I'm talking way back. I'm talking more than just 100 years ago, although by that point, that mindset is totally rooted, totally implanted. People don't even know why. They treat people so shittily. They're just like, oh, you're below my station, ptoo. But who invented that? Humans. So, servants are seen as less than human. Very common in slavery, where slaves are not seen as human. And that's the only way that you can debase another human being, in the way that slaves have historically been mutilated, destroyed, debased, raped, pillaged, plundered, abused. These are people who had to live under terrible circumstances because of a terrible oppressive class. And even though the world has changed, there are still people who have this ingrained, where there is this innate disgust for a person based on their job, where they live, how much they make, how they can afford to live. Just think about the way people talk about people who are dishwashers or house cleaners, McDonald's workers. I mean, there's huge arguments about whether these people even deserve a living wage. I mean, right now I'm specifically talking about America. But we, America, are the bastard children of Great Britain. That's right. We are all British bastards, including me. I'm one of your British bastards. Class systems systemically treated people badly, systemically gave them less nutritious food, less durable clothing that identified your station and then determined how someone would treat you, less availability to health care. And I don't just mean, again, the American system, although America, we are getting our act together. We have a long life to live. We're not going to keep it the way that it's been. And that's a guarantee. But I mean, again, clean water, the ability to clean ourselves, the understanding of how our bodies work, access to education. So many different types of education exist, and so many different types of education are denied. Once again, let's bring it back to how people, trying to choose my words very carefully right here, how people use their religion as the basis for what their youth is allowed to know. Let's go with that. Again, I'm harping in on sexuality and biology because we are physical beings. We touch each other to gain understanding. There's a reason why COVID and 6 feet apart is like impossible, and it's because we as humans are just like, I want to be close to you. When a mother has a child, the first thing she does is take the child to her breast. And you may think, yes, because you gotta feed the baby, and you're right. But also because physical contact is how we communicate. Our hearts beat for each other. So we need people, and we need to treat people better. And treating people better includes giving the knowledge that we've learned. In some ways, we are so advanced in the 21st century. And in some other ways, we are so backwards. I know, I haven't even gotten to the drawing yet. What am I going to draw? Me in a scene? We'll get back to that. All of this is coming from the fact that I'm talking about Cinderella, because Cinderella is about treating humans well. Now, in this case, Cinderella, a servant, gains her humanity from a magical night. And whether you believe in magic or not, don't suspend your disbelief. We may relegate fairy godmothers to the realm of fantasy, but treating each other well is a grounded possibility for all. So, Sophie and Benedict. Ah, I love them! They meet at a ball, but it's a mask ball. He doesn't know she snuck in. She snuck in with the help of a housekeeper who essentially raised her and is like, you deserve one night of fun. And boy, do they have fun. But then the romance novel goes on. They don't see each other for like a while. I wonder if the timeline will keep that. Remember, the Bridgerton series is not exclusively book accurate. It's just using the book as a basis. Luke, I look forward to working with you. That is, of course, the other thing. I've been looking for my British voice. A British accent is so much more than O's and R's. It's your intonation. It's the way you understand how people talk. It is candor, and it is also wit. I love British humor. Have you seen the show Coupling? It is hilarious. Hilarious! Oh, it's so funny. But it's beyond funny. You get people's personalities. There's a lot of stress when it comes to being a Brit. And this is why they came from a... Uh-oh, I'm going Cockney. Help! It's okay, I'm working on it, okay? It's gonna be great. Trust me, you want to work with me because I bring my own special flavor. I am magic and whimsy. I'm like a fresh breeze tickling your hair. Veering off topic. Cinderella, Sophie. These are characters who are caught between worlds, okay? They yearn for more, but they have instilled beliefs that they cannot have more. And who's instilling those beliefs? Society. And as we know, society is wrong a lot of the time. Not about everything, but also about a lot. Remember, bathing only became popular again about 150 years ago. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. Boy, I could go on a whole other tangent about sexuality and bathing and how a lot of sexual practices and taboos probably came from the fact that we couldn't clean our bodies. But we'll save that for another day. Another day. We'll save that for another day. And we'll save that for another day. You may or may not know this, Danielle Hernandez, but my family is Puerto Rican. It's also about being trapped between worlds. Puerto Rico is not a state, but it is a commonwealth, as in it's common for the wealth to get sucked out of Puerto Rico into the pockets of corporations. But Puerto Rico is not reaping the benefits of fully being American. And having family in Puerto Rico is so interesting in a distant way. Because I was born here. I inherited my American citizenship. I was just born into just born in New York like sup. First generation New Yorican right here, which means first generation Puerto Rican born into New York. New Yorican. You're welcome. But Puerto Rico is like a candy land of colors and tropical oases. And I mean colors in every sense. We paint our houses the colors of candy. And the people come in all shapes and colors. My great-granddaddy, he was a black man. Could you tell when you look at me? Can you tell that I have dark blood? No, you can't. I look white enough to fool some pretty racist bastards until they hear my name or watch this video. Ding! I blend into a lot of different crowds. It's a lot of fun, but I never, ever, 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 ever intend to deny my Puerto Rican heritage. I love it! I'm from the land of sugarcane, baby. I'm from the rich port. You're welcome. Shit. Suck on that. For real, suck on sugarcane. That's where you get sugar. Ding! Yes, Puerto Ricans. They're white, they're black, they're blonde, they're brunettes, they're green-eyed, they're blue-eyed, they're brown-eyed. Although what color would you say are my eyes? Depends on who I'm talking to. Depends on the day. Depends on the light. I don't know. I have so many generations of people in my lineage. Who knows what I am? I've never done a 23andMe. I've never done a any type of Ancestry.com, and I'm okay with that. I don't intend to. I like the mystery. I also don't want to go giving away my DNA to people, and I don't want to pay people to take my DNA either. Hashtag my DNA. That's right. I met my great-grandfather once, and it was otherworldly. I was a kid, so we couldn't communicate, because I didn't speak Spanish. No hablo español cuando estuve un chica. That accent was terrible. No hablo español cuando estuve una chica. Cuando estaba una chica? See, now I'm thinking about grammar Spanish because I'm an adult and I speak more Spanish than I ever did. But when I was a kid, I didn't speak any. And my grandfather, excuse me, and my great-grandfather, he only spoke Spanish, so we couldn't communicate. We looked completely different. He had bright green eyes and dark chocolate skin, and I'm pale and brown hair, brown-eyed. But you know what we had? We had smiles. We were able to communicate through facial expressions and gestures, and I'm so lucky that I ever got to meet my great-grandfather. How many people can say that? How many people ever have the opportunity? But I did. And I have so much family in Puerto Rico that I barely know. One thing about my family, my very Puerto Rican family, Puerto Rican on both sides, is they both came, my parents, from very large families. And they came over in the 1950s. West Side Story Times. I have, set lists about it when I was doing stand-up. Well, when I was testing stand-up. Danielle Hernandez Fernandez. That's really my name. That's actually my name. Danielle Marivette Hernandez Fernandez. I know, I have so many names, I have a hard time to choose. It's just, I'm very blessed. I have a ton of names. And Sophie will be one too. The point of all of this is that Puerto Rico, it got conquered a lot. A lot of people came in. That's why there's so many different types of people, so many different colors. We're all Puerto Rican, but we all look vastly different from each other. We are the mutts of the world. And in that essence, it gives me a sense of other. I can blend into a crowd, but I may not belong there. On the other hand, who's to say where we belong, other than we, the people? So, Puerto Rican, I'm the mutt of the world. I'm American. British bastards. Literally, we defected from the country, but then we, kept their principles. We were like, you know what? We don't want that shit, but we will keep your class system. That was smart. You there. You don't deserve a living wage. What? I don't deserve a living wage? I don't know why. Yeah, I do. Oliver. Please, sir, I'd like some more. More? Seeing Bridgerton made in 2020 with such a diverse cast was delicious. It drove a lot of people crazy too, which was also delicious because it's a time period that has been classically kept by very specific people, and now with Hollywood and Netflix and all these other streaming services with their budgets are able to hire so many different types of people with so many different faces who can give so much. To be an actor and to wear those costumes, oh my god. I have a thing for costumes. I have a thing for clothing. I have a lot of clothing. But costumes allow us to step in time, to wear what people wore. Remember, costumes to us were clothing to them. So, Puerto Rican, the mutts of the world, Americans are British bastards. Bridgerton 2020 is giving the opportunity to live in the Regency period, even if you aren't of the truly British persuasion. That's the fun of being an actor. And then there's Benedict and Sophie, whose love story is so unlike any of their other siblings. Well, his other siblings. His is a story of intimacy. Truly, they bond over one night. Their conversation may be over mundane things, but the depths they are able to reach is profound. By the end of that one night, they have achieved a deeper bond than some characters will ever see in their own romance novel. Their book also actually has less sex scenes than other books. I mean, they're in there, but... And I don't want to say it's not about that. Don't want to give away too many spoilers here. But what they have between them is this, they're just drawn to each other. They're constantly drawn to each other. Even when they meet under different circumstances, they're drawn to each other. And it's all just eye contact and being able to express yourself through a facial expression, through body language. Just the sensual intimacy of closeness. And kissing. Their book has so much kissing. Personally, I think it's a crime that there's not nearly enough romantic kissing in some stories. I mean, it's so important. Or maybe some people are just less into it. But no, I'm a person who's super into kissing and kissing well. Because the only thing worse than not kissing is badly kissing. Woof, I don't know. Mama ain't got time for that. But I mean, anytime there's a kissing scene between Benedict and Sophie, I mean, my goodness! My goodness! I burn for you. Yeah, they do. And on that note, Bridgerton has set my soul on fire with excitement. With excitement that I haven't felt in so long. Because it's combining my favorite things. Romance novels, film and theater, costumes! And just delightful people telling delightful stories together. Now, in the time of COVID, everything stopped for a while. But not for long. We just got the announcement that season 2 is going forward. And it's going to move forward differently. I mean, it's still COVID. You have to take precautions. I have worked as a COVID compliance officer, and what that means is I've been the person on set taking the temperatures, ensuring people are wearing their masks correctly, making sure that they are wearing the correct type of masks, distributing hand sanitizer, keeping people aware of distance, open windows, ventilation, keeping each other safe. It's a very important thing to consider going forward for everything, but especially when you're going to film a romance novel, because there's intimacy, there's closeness. There is no romance novel without that. And Sophie and Benedict's, well, that one's just my favorite. And then here we go. You know I love symbolism. You know I love symbolism. Here we go. Benedict's name means a blessing. A benediction is a spoken blessing. Sophie's name means wisdom, which means together they are the spoken blessing of wisdom. And I would be honored to speak that blessing with wisdom into the world. Hashtag send this to Chris Van Dusen. Well, there's so much more to tell, but I'm going to leave it there. And obviously now I'm going to have to film a scene from the book so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, I'll see you all next time on Dreamtime with Danielle. Thanks. You're very quiet, Benedict said softly. I was just thinking about what I'd miss if my life were to drastically change.